This isn't just a tip, it's a warning. Because what I'm about to show you doesn't just sharpen your mind, it strips away what makes you normal. You'll begin thinking 3 moves ahead. You'll stop trusting people, and maybe, just maybe, start using them. This brain hack doesn't just make you powerful, it makes you dangerous. And once you cross that line, there's no going back. You're not the same anymore. Now, before we dive in, I've broken this video into 3 parts, so you know exactly what's coming. First, we'll uncover the brain hack itself, what it is, how it works, and why it's far more powerful than you think. Second, we'll explore its dark side, the part no one talks about. The part that turns strategy into manipulation and influence into control. And finally, we'll learn how to master it for power, for protection. And to make sure you are the one pulling the strings, not the one tangled in them. Part 1. The brain hack. Metacognition. Let me introduce you to a mental function that only a small percentage of people use consciously. It's called metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking. That might sound a little abstract, so let's make it real. Most people are stuck in what we call level 1 thinking. They react, they feel something, and they act on it. They get angry, they yell, they feel nervous, they avoid, feel confident, they speak. But a mastermind operates on level 2 thinking. They don't just feel, they observe themselves feeling. And they don't just act. They ask themselves, why do I want to act this way? Is this emotion helping me or hurting me? What happens 3 moves ahead if I say this right now? This is the difference between a pawn and a chess player. Between someone who gets played and someone who plays the board. Let's break this down into 3 core metacognitive skills. Emotional labeling. This is where emotional intelligence truly begins. Not with controlling your emotions, but with understanding them. Most people live on emotional autopilot. Surge of anger, anxiety, shame, or frustration hits, and they react. No pause, no processing, just action. And often, that action turns into regret. But a metacognitive thinker steps back from the emotion. They observe it, rather than being swallowed by it. They don't just ask, what am I feeling? They ask, why am I feeling this? And, is this even the real emotion? Think about it, most people say, I'm angry. But that's a surface label. It's like seeing smoke and assuming you know where the fire is. A metacognitive mind goes deeper. Am I actually angrier? Am I embarrassed and trying to defend my ego? Am I upset because something bad happened or because I feel powerless and can't control it? Am I irritated with this person, or am I just tired, hungry, or anxious about something else entirely? This kind of internal questioning might seem small, but it's the beginning of all self-control. Because the moment you can name the real emotion, you create space between the feeling and the reaction. And in that space lies power. You're no longer a puppet pulled by emotion. You become a player making calculated moves. Here are the benefits of emotional labeling. You avoid saying things you'll regret. When you name the true emotion, you catch yourself before the outburst. You stay calm under pressure. Emotions lose their grip the moment they're named, even saying, I feel overwhelmed. Activates your rational brain. Start to understand what others are feeling beneath the surface. When you label your own emotions regularly, you become better at reading others. Someone who seems angry might actually be scared. Someone who seems distant might be ashamed. That insight doesn't just help you connect, it gives you leverage. Here's a quick daily practice. Label in layers. When you feel a strong emotion, pause and ask yourself, what is the emotion I'm feeling right now? What triggered it? Is this the true emotion, or is there something deeper beneath it? What unmet need or belief is fueling this emotion? Do this even for just 30 seconds a day. You'll be shocked by how much control you gain. Because here's the truth. Unlabeled emotions control you. Labeled emotions obey you. This is the first move of a mastermind. Awareness before action. Thought tracking. Your thoughts aren't just background noise. They're blueprints. And your brain builds your life around those blueprints. If you're not paying attention, your mind will follow patterns you never chose, only inherited, absorbed, or had installed without consent. That's why thought tracking is a critical metacognitive skill. Most people don't think their thoughts, they receive them. Like mental notifications they never unsubscribed from. I'm not good enough. This will never work. They probably hate me. I even try. What if I fail? And the worst part, they don't question those thoughts. They just believe them. They assume if I'm thinking it, it must be true. But here's the metacognitive truth. Not every thought is yours, not every thought is true. Not every thought deserves your attention. Think of thought tracking like installing a security camera inside your mind. You don't let just any thought walk in and rearrange the furniture. You check its ID. You pause, especially during emotional spikes, and ask, what am I thinking right now? That simple awareness shines a light on the thought. Is it helpful or harmful? Even if it feels real, is it useful? Is it based on facts or fear? Because fear-based thoughts are usually exaggerated, repetitive, and emotionally charged. Fact-based thoughts are clear, neutral, and stable. Here's an example. A thought hits, I'm not good enough to try this. Most people just absorb that. It becomes the script, but a mastermind pauses. They step back and ask, where is this belief coming from? Did someone say this to me when I was younger? Was this installed by failure or fear of failure? What actual proof do I have that I can't do this? This questioning breaks the loop. It slows the spiral. Turns a passive thought into a conscious choice. And here's the science behind it. When you track your thoughts, you shift brain activity from your limbic system, your emotional brain, into your prefrontal cortex, your rational decision-making center. That shift creates distance. And in that distance is freedom. You're no longer the thought, you're the observer of the thought. And that observer decides what happens next. Here's a bonus technique. The thought journal. At the end of your day, write down one toxic or limiting thought you noticed. Then break it down. Where did it come from? What evidence supports it? Contradicts it? What new belief do I choose instead? Over time, this rewires your mind. You stop being driven by subconscious fears and start being led by conscious intent. Strategic observation. Most people walk through conversations blind. They hear words but miss meaning. They react to tone but miss intention. They see faces but miss the fractures behind the smile. But a metacognitive mind doesn't just participate, it observes. This is the art of strategic observation. It's where you split your awareness into two channels. Channel 1. You're fully engaged in the interaction, talking, listening, expressing. Channel 2. You're quietly watching, like a social chessboard unfolding in real time. That second channel is where the real game begins. Start noticing micro reactions, a flicker in the eyes, a clenched jaw, a twitch in the corner of the mouth. Real-time tells, leaking emotional truth. Hesitations, pauses before answering, changes in voice tempo. These reveal uncertainty, inner conflict, or deception. Power moves, who's interrupting, who's mirroring, who's leaning in, who's retreating. Status dances happening beneath the words. Emotional triggers, specific words, or topics that spark outsized reactions. Buried pressure points, waiting to be exploited or healed. Fake smiles, forced laughter, over-explaining, subtle signs of guilt, discomfort, or someone trying too hard to hide something. Does this work? Because your brain is wired with what psychologists call theory of mind, the ability to simulate what others are thinking or feeling. But most people only use this instinct unconsciously. They sense something's off, but can't explain why. Metacognition upgrades that instinct into a weapon. You start catching social patterns before they trap you. You start seeing people not as they appear, but as they really are. It's like putting on X-ray glasses for human interaction. Here's a real-life example. You're in a meeting. Someone laughs at your idea, a little too loud. Most people either laugh along or shrink back. But a strategic observer thinks that wasn't about the joke. That was dominance, disguised as humor. So instead of reacting emotionally, you pivot. You redirect attention. You raise your value. You win without even playing their game. Here's the twist. This is how manipulators operate. They watch your face when you speak. They study your hesitations. And they test your reactions. Like scientists running experiments on your emotional wiring. But here's the catch. With the same awareness, you can disarm them. Or become one of them. Because strategic observation is neutral. It can be used to protect, guide, lead, and connect. Or it can be used to deceive, dominate, manipulate, and control. That's where the line between mastermind and monster begins to blur. Here's your daily practice. Silent observation. Try it during your next conversation. While speaking, ask yourself, what are they really responding to? My words or my energy? While listening, ask what aren't they saying out loud? Afterwards, ask where was the power? Who had it? Who gave it away? Do this enough, and conversations stop being random. They become strategic awareness where every move has purpose. Most people enter conversations hoping to be understood. Masterminds enter conversations to understand the terrain. So ask yourself, am I watching the room, or is the room watching me? Am I playing the game, or being played by it? Because in the next section, we go deeper into the shadows, where this same tool becomes a method of control, and where awareness once used for wisdom becomes a weapon. Are you ready to meet the monster? Part 2. Monster Mode. The dark side of metacognition. Now let's go deeper, darker. You've already seen how metacognition can make you calm, strategic, powerful. But what happens when someone uses that same power without empathy? What happens when they're not trying to understand people, they're trying to use them? That's when a mastermind turns into something else entirely. Something far more dangerous. A monster. Because the same awareness that helps you improve yourself can be turned outward to a weapon, emotional weaponization. When a manipulator uses metacognition, they don't just feel emotions, they analyze them like tools. They study you, your reactions, your insecurities, your deepest fears. And then they do one of three things. Exploit it. Make you feel small, so you crave their approval just to feel okay. Exaggerate it. Amplify your fears until you're frozen obedient, anxious, waiting for their validation. Mirror it. Pretend they feel what you feel so you drop your guard, thinking they understand you. It's terrifyingly effective. For example, a toxic partner might whisper, no one else could ever understand you like I do. Sounds comforting, right? But what they're really saying is, you're too damaged for anyone else to love. Stay here where I can control you. It looks like safety, but it's a cage. That's the monster's genius. They trap you inside your own emotions. Thought inception. Planting ideas in people's minds without them ever realizing it. You've seen this in politics and advertising, toxic relationships. Most of the time you didn't even notice it because it's designed that way. Thought inception doesn't tell you what to do. It guides your thoughts until you believe the idea was yours all along. They use subtle cues, loaded questions, repetition, little mental nudges until you take the leap yourself. For example, instead of saying you should cut off that friend, they might casually drop. It's crazy how people stay friends with someone who clearly doesn't support them. I could never do that, but hey, everyone's different, and the thought lingers. When it blooms, you water it. You think it was your idea, but it wasn't. They didn't control your body. They hijacked your mind. Controlled silence and timid responses. One of the most underestimated dark tactics is calculated silence. In the hands of a monster, silence isn't an absence, it's a presence. It's a heavy, unsettling force that makes you feel off balance, guilty, unsure. They delay their texts just long enough to make you anxious. They stare at you in silence long enough to make you second-guess yourself. They speak slowly, with long pause, is forcing you to fill the gaps, revealing more than you meant to. This is how they dominate conversations without ever raising their voice. For example, you share something deeply personal, and they just stare. No response, no reassurance, just silence. Suddenly you start rambling, backtracking, apologizing, and in that moment the power flips. You're exposed. They haven't said a word, and somehow they're in control. Because sometimes the most powerful move is saying nothing at all. Emotional conditioning. This is where it gets dark. Manipulators don't just control moments, they control patterns. They reward and punish your behavior to create control loops. They praise you when you obey. They withdraw when you question them. They give affection in small, addictive doses. They create emotional highs and lows that feel like love, but are really control. This is the same strategy used in cults, in toxic relationships, in psychological abuse. Over time, you start craving their approval and fearing their rejection. For example, you speak up, you disagree. Suddenly, they're cold, distant. You apologize, you go quiet, and they're warm again. Next time, you don't speak up at all. They don't need to punish you because you've already punished yourself. Strategic vulnerability. Now here's the twisted part. Not all monsters look powerful. Some wear the mask of weakness. They play the victim. They overshare their trauma. They say things like, "No one's ever cared about me before." Suddenly, you feel responsible for proving them wrong. You start protecting them, defending them, carrying their emotions like they're your own. But it's a trap. They're collecting data, building emotional debt, slowly making you responsible for their feelings. And once you're hooked, they twist the narrative. "I can't believe you'd hurt me like this." After everything I shared with you, now you're the villain in their story and they're still the ones pulling the strings. So let's be clear. Metacognition is not good. It's not evil. It's just awareness. But when that awareness is paired with ego, with pain, with a thirst for control, it creates monsters. And those monsters, they walk among us, in plain sight. Some wear suits. Some wear smiles. Some say they love you. So ask yourself this. Do you really know who's behind the mask? More importantly, do you know who you become when no one's watching? Because mastering this brain hack means facing the darkness inside you too. Let me know when you're ready for part 3, where we shift the focus from danger to discipline, from weapon to wisdom. We'll break down how to master metacognition, not just for power, but for protection, clarity, and unshakable control. Ready when you are. Part 3. How to master metacognition for power and protection. So you've seen both sides of this mental blade. How metacognition can shape you into a strategist or twist you into a manipulator. But here's the real question. How do you master this skill for yourself? How do you build the kind of mental discipline that not only shields you from manipulation, but also sharpens your thinking so precisely that you're always 10 steps ahead? This is where real power begins. And no, you don't have to be a monk or a neuroscientist to pull this off. What you need is awareness, repetition, and the right tools. Let's break it down into 4 core technique stools to strengthen your emotional control, sharpen your mental edge, and forge the kind of psychological armor that makes you unshakable. Observer mode. When you take a third-person perspective on your thoughts or emotions, something powerful happens. You engage the prefrontal cortex, your brain's control center. And by doing that, you shut down the emotional noise and activate strategic thinking. Here's how you use it in real life. Start narrating your mind like you're an outside observer. When you feel triggered or overwhelmed, ask, what is he feeling right now? Why is he reacting this way? What does he really want in this moment? Yes, you're referring to yourself in the third person, creates distance. And that distance helps reduce emotional bias. For example, instead of spiraling with, "I'm freaking out about this presentation," you reframe it. He's nervous because he's overthinking the judgment. But he's prepared. He'll be fine. Just like that, the panic dies down. You take back control. Repeat this during high-stakes moments before interviews, during arguments, when making decisions. It trains your brain to observe instead of obey. Mental rewind. Flexion activates your brain's default mode. Network a system tied to insight, memory, and pattern recognition. And it's how you catch your own repeating behaviors, emotional blind spots, and the subtle manipulations people try to use on you. Here's the technique. Every night before bed, do a quick 5-minute rewind. Ask yourself, what was my strongest emotional moment today? What triggered it? Did I react or respond? What could I do differently next time? Bonus level, keep a mental moves journal. Each day, write down one moment where you either outsmarted an emotional reaction, noticed someone trying to influence you, or used metacognition intentionally. After 30 days, you'll have a record of your evolution, a mental battle log showing how far you've come. Inner voice tuning. Most people assume their thoughts are facts, but many thoughts are just echoes of fear, trauma, or someone else's influence. When you believe every thought, you become a prisoner of your own mind. Here's how to break free. Start categorizing your thoughts. Ask, is this a fact or just a feeling? Is this thought helping me or hurting me? Who gave me this belief? Did I choose it or was it planted? Now, here's your power phrase. That's just a thought, not a truth. Example, the thought creeps in, I'm not good enough to lead. You catch it and say, interesting thought. Who gave me that belief? What evidence do I actually have that it's true? That simple interruption breaks the loop. It installs a new pattern, one where you question the program instead of obeying it. Mirror other thinking. This is where you unlock next-level social intelligence. When you tune into someone's body language, emotional shifts, word choices, you activate your brain's theory of mind. That's your ability to simulate what someone else is thinking or feeling. When you pair this with metacognition, you don't just understand people, you read them. Here's how to train it. In every conversation, split your awareness into 2 parts. Part 1. What am I thinking and feeling right now? Part 2. What is this person trying to get from me emotionally, socially, intellectually? Ask yourself, what emotional state are they really in? What are they not saying out loud? What behavior of mine just triggered that subtle reaction? This helps you detect fake compliments. It helps you see through manipulation. It helps you respond with influence instead of force. You notice someone constantly seeking validation in a group. Instead of reacting or competing, you mirror confidence. You offer small validations. You lead the dynamic. Because now you see the game behind the game. It's the mastery formula, the mental warfare loop. Here's your daily loop. Practice this, and your brain rewires itself into something sharp, calm, and unbreakable. Pause. Interrupt automatic thinking. Label, identify the emotion or thought pattern. Question. Where did this come from? What's the real agenda? Choose. Respond strategically, not reactively. Reflect. Learn from every interaction. Do this every single day. This is your metacognitive loop, and when repeated, makes your mind cold, sharp, and untouchable like a blade forged through fire. This is how you protect yourself from being manipulated. This is how you take back control from old thought loops, toxic patterns, emotional chaos. This is how you rise above the noise, mentally calm, emotionally in control, strategically dangerous. When you master metacognition, you'll never live on autopilot again. You'll become the kind of person no one can predict, no one can provoke, and no one can play. If you found this valuable, don't just watch this video, train your mind, because the difference between being controlled and being in control starts with one thing: awareness. Like this video if you're ready to operate on a higher level. Subscribe if you want more deep psychological tools like this. And share it with someone who needs to wake up and stop being a pawn in someone else's game.